Leave the lady alone.
Leave her the fuck alone.
Hey.
The film focuses on the life of a man named Joe Ducet. Joe works at an advertising company, and he is known for being rude, selfish, and a heavy alcoholic. One day, Joe is scheduled to meet an important client, but at the same time, his ex-wife calls and reminds him he has to be there for their daughter Mia's 3rd birthday. Unfortunately, Joe refuses to show up because he is busy, and he figures his kid is too little to even understand whether he's there or not, with not a single ounce of guilt.
She is 3 years old, okay? So you think she cares whether I'm there or not?
You are a f***ing joke!
"She's too young to remember" is the motto of every future therapy bill. That night, Joe finally goes to meet the client, a married couple. When the husband steps away to take a phone call, Joe starts by complimenting the wife. Then Joe, because he thinks he is hotter and smarter than everyone in the room, starts mocking the husband and flirting way too hard with her. He even gets handsy.
Excuse me?
Bad move. The woman gets offended, fast,
You're a dick, and I would rather f a corpse.
and then, out of nowhere, next thing you know, Joe's idea of networking is speedrunning getting punched in the face. Joe deals with that business failure by getting wasted, staggering down the street like his body is held together with bad decisions. At the same time, he spots a toy seller and remembers his daughter is turning 3. With a sudden hit of guilt, Joe buys a toy as a gift, then decides to visit his friend Chucky.
Chucky! Chucky!
But since it's already late, Chucky refuses to open the door and tells Joe to just go home. Chucky heard "drunk friend at my door" and chose peace. Honestly, respect. As Joe turns to head home, he runs into a stranger holding a bright yellow umbrella. In a blackout-level haze, Joe follows her to a hotel without thinking twice. He passes out in the room, and when he wakes up, he realizes he's completely naked. He assumes she's still there, but the room is empty and the door is locked tight. Joe screams for help and pounds on the door, but nobody responds. He is truly trapped alone inside that strange room.
Hello?
With no idea who set him up. Every day, food gets delivered through a small opening at the bottom of the door. Plain white rice and dumplings, no seasoning, no sauce, not even hot sauce, nothing. And instead of water, they leave him a bottle of vodka. He never once sees the face of the person delivering it because he keeps eating the same thing non-stop. Dumplings and vodka, dumplings and vodka. Every single day, his mental state starts falling apart and he sinks into deep depression. Joe finally snaps, throws the food, and demands something else. Furious and desperate. Rice, dumplings, vodka. This is not a prison menu. This is a bad decision in liquid form. Inside that hotel room, Joe's only company is a small TV. One day, he sees a workout show led by a woman on the screen. Joe, isolated for years, with no healthy outlet for anything, gives in to a lonely impulse, the kind you regret the second you come back to reality. But not long after that, sleep gas pours out of the vent and knocks Joe unconscious again. While he's out, people enter the room and collect a DNA sample from him. Imagine running a whole operation and thinking, you know what this needs? Lab work. Humans are insane. The next morning, when Joe wakes up, he sees a shocking news report on TV. His ex-wife has been found brutally murdered, and Joe is being accused as the killer. Because Joe's DNA was found at the crime scene, it makes him look completely guilty. That crushes Joe even more. Because now he's not just trapped for no reason, he's also being framed as the man who killed his own ex-wife. Getting locked up is bad. Getting locked up while the TV is calling you a murderer is a whole new flavor of hell. As time drags on, the endless isolation starts breaking Joe's mind. He gradually loses it, to the point he even drinks his own urine. He starts hallucinating too, like the man in a painting is somehow alive and standing in the room with him. The loneliness pushes him into doing all kinds of weird things. One day, he finds a white mouse in the room and turns it into his only companion. The mouse later has babies, and for the first time in years, Joe feels something close to happiness. When your best friend is a mouse, you're officially living in a rejected Disney draft. The next day, he finally gets different food, just like he demanded earlier, and it turns out it's his beloved white mouse, cooked. Joe is completely crushed. He feels like there's no hope of ever getting out of that nightmare room. Overwhelmed and desperate, he smashes his head into the glass. No. Then he grabs a shard of glass and tries to take his own life. Joe wakes up again with his injuries already treated. Whoever's behind this clearly doesn't want him dying that fast. That's when Joe realizes he's been watched the whole time. He spots a hidden CCTV camera in the room, moves closer, and sees a man on the monitor. Someone has been observing him like this is a private reality show. If you're running surveillance on a human being suffering for fun, you're not a mastermind. You're a full-time psychopath. Without realizing it, 5 years have passed since Joe was first imprisoned in that hotel room. One day, he watches the news and sees a story about his daughter Mia, who is now 8 years old. Mia has been adopted by another family and is growing up healthy, and she's even learning the cello. That moment becomes Joe's reason to keep going. He starts believing that maybe one day he can survive long enough to see her again. Nothing hits harder than watching your kid grow up through a TV you didn't choose to own. From that point on, Joe's determination to escape gets stronger. He starts writing letters to Mia, letters he plans to give her if he ever gets out. He also begins working out regularly to keep his body from falling apart while still eating the same damn dumplings. Joe swears he'll escape and make someone pay for all the years they stole from him. He wants one thing: to see his daughter again and finally learn the real truth. The glow-up montage is inspiring, but the diet is still dumpling in despair. Joe tries to escape by prying out bricks one by one, slowly carving a way out over years of grinding effort.
This is now the Category 5 with sustained
Constitution of the United States.
When he finally gets close enough to make a break for it, he sees another news report on TV showing Mia now in her early 20s. But before Joe can do anything,
he's a beautiful and very talented.
Sleep gas pours out of the vent again, and he collapses instantly. Every ounce of progress gets wiped out in seconds. Nothing like finally seeing daylight, then getting hit with the classic knockout gas. Real customer retention strategy. A scene shows a large suitcase sitting out in an open field, and suddenly, Joe comes to and realizes he's inside that suitcase, dumped outside. After 20 years locked up with no explanation that makes any sense, he finally breathes fresh air for the first time. He's shaken, but he's been left with the letters he wrote to his daughter, a large stack of cash, and a cell phone. Still, he has zero clue why this happened to him or who's behind it. Everything feels like a twisted puzzle he has to solve alone. Cash, a phone, and trauma. Congrats, Joe. You got released like a corporate layoff. Around the same time, Joe spots that same woman again, the one with the bright yellow umbrella, and he immediately goes after her. Joe chases her down, but a group of rugby dudes thinks Joe is bothering her and
Leave the lady alone.
But Joe manages to put them down anyway. Nothing says freshly freed like getting jumped by guys who think they're security at a nightclub. Joe keeps chasing. He finally spots the yellow umbrella in a line. Turns out, it's not the woman at all. It's just a man with an intellectual disability standing in line for free medical treatment. A nurse named Marie steps in and breaks it up. This is where we're introduced to Marie, a nurse with real empathy and a strong help people instinct. Marie assumes Joe might be having some kind of episode, so she gives him her business card, just in case he needs help later. Getting handed a nurse's card after chasing an umbrella is a specific kind of low point. That night, Joe goes to see his old friend Chucky, who he hasn't seen in forever. Chucky is completely stunned. Joe vanished for 20 years, and now he's standing there like he just walked back in from a smoke break. Joe tells him everything: the kidnapping, the room, the release, and the fact that he was sent out with a huge stack of cash. Chucky can't make sense of it, but he assumes whoever did this has a personal grudge, because Joe's been stubborn and reckless for as long as Chucky's known him. At the same time, Joe suddenly gets a call from the same unknown voice, calm, controlled, and quietly threatening. The man says we all have to take responsibility for the choices we've made, no matter how big the risk. Then he mentions Joe's daughter Mia by name and promises Joe will see her again someday. Instead of comfort, that sends Joe into panic because now he's terrified for Mia's safety. Nothing chills you faster than a stranger casually name-dropping your kid. From then on, Joe becomes obsessed with figuring out who's behind this. With Chucky's help, they start building a list of people who might have a reason to hate Joe. They dig through old contacts, old grudges, old damage Joe left behind. But after checking people one by one, none of it feels like the real answer. Everything stays vague and frustrating. Joe can't sleep. Fear for his daughter eats at him until he collapses, unconscious, on Chucky's floor. Chucky finds Marie's card in Joe's pocket and calls her for help. Marie checks Joe and concludes he's completely exhausted and needs real rest. After Chucky steps out, Marie gets curious and she starts reading Joe's letters one by one. They're written to Mia, full of longing, written by a father who has no idea where his daughter even is. Through those letters, Marie realizes Joe was locked up for 20 years with no clear reason. She's shaken and feels genuine sympathy for what he survived. But then suddenly,
There to share it with you.
Joe wakes up and explodes.
Don't touch me.
Furious that she read his private letters, Marie apologizes and offers to help. She says she knows people who could support him legally, but Joe refuses, hard. He doesn't want this going through the system. He only wants the truth. Joe's been through hell and still refuses help out of pure stubbornness. That tracks. Right then, Joe receives another message. It points to a hospital and a patient's name. In the end, Joe accepts Marie's help anyway, because with Marie being a nurse, getting into the hospital becomes much easier. Joe finds the patient and is ready to go after him with his box cutter. But the patient is just an ordinary old man. Joe realizes whoever's behind this is playing him again. Later, the two of them rest and grab lunch at a restaurant. Joe notices a food delivery courier inside the place, and it sparks an idea. Joe decides to trace the supplier of the food he was fed while imprisoned, because he knows that dumpling flavor by heart after 20 years. So they start visiting restaurants all over the city, tasting dish after dish, trying to match the flavor burned into Joe's memory. After countless tries, Joe finally finds the exact taste that matches what he ate in captivity. Not long after, a gangster-looking guy shows up to pick up food from that restaurant, and Joe tails him immediately. 20 years of forced dumplings turned Joe into a human taste test. Trauma, but make it useful.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
The guy leads them to a large, hidden warehouse-like place. Joe sneaks in, and then... Joe goes brutal, dropping the henchmen one by one.
You know,
He demands to know who runs the place and finally meets a man named Chuny, a sketchy operator with a mid-level boss vibe. Joe suspects Chuny is connected to the whole thing, without warning. Joe takes him down, ties him to a table, and starts interrogating him. Chuny won't cooperate, so Joe escalates and... Joe uses the blade to intimidate him and push him past his limit. But Chuny still tries to hold out. Joe goes further, rubbing salt into the injury to force an answer. Joe's interrogation style is HR would like a word, except there's no HR, there's only suffering. Eventually, Chuny breaks. He admits he was only hired by someone he never met to hold Joe captive. Chuny tells Joe to play a recording from 20 years ago. The recording shows a man placing the order to imprison Joe in the first place. But Joe can't just walk out. Chuny's men keep pouring in, more and more.
you hear me say get away from the fucking door? Get away!
Easy, Joe.
At first, Joe handles them easily, like his body's been training for this moment. But the numbers keep growing. and Joe still forces his way through. He escapes, but he's left with a stab wound in his back. Then the mastermind's people show up and dump Joe right in front of Chucky's house like he's nothing. Getting dumped on a doorstep after being stabbed is insane, but it's still an upgrade from the suitcase. Marie treats Joe again. This time, she's with a doctor. While they're talking outside, Joe overhears the doctor telling Marie she should report this to the police for her own safety and stop getting involved in Joe's mess. The doctor comes in and checks Joe's back wound. He tells Joe that Marie has already done way too much, especially considering they're basically strangers. Joe catches the subtext and realizes the doctor has feelings for Marie, so Joe says it straight to the doctor's face, then tells Marie that starting now, she shouldn't get involved anymore. Marie looks genuinely hurt and surprised, but Joe still pushes her away harshly. Joe's love language is "go away so you don't get hurt," delivered like a punch. Later that night, Joe looks a little better and is quietly having a drink at Chucky's bar, but the peace doesn't last.
Hello.
Joe answers, and it's the same voice. And then,
hello.
Turns out the man is literally right next to him. Joe snaps and attacks him. But it doesn't work. The man's people are ready, and they restrain Joe immediately. The man reveals the real leverage. Mia is in his hands as a hostage. So Joe better not act reckless if he wants his daughter alive and safe. Villains love two things: dramatic timing and personal space violations. The man then offers Joe 3 gifts that are completely insane. Basically, a set of choices Joe has to take. Gift 1. Joe is forced to watch a horrific video tied to what happened to his ex-wife. It's brutally violent. It makes him feel sick to his stomach, and it ends with her being killed in a truly inhuman way. Gift 2. A written confession proving the mysterious man is the one behind Joe's kidnapping and confinement for the past 20 years. Basically paperwork that clears Joe and frames him as the victim on record. Gift 3. A stash of diamonds worth $20 million. Enough money for Joe to live it up and disappear. And after Joe receives all 3 gifts, the mysterious man claims he'll end his own life. But Joe only gets those gifts if he answers one simple question. Who is this man? And why did he lock Joe up for 20 years? Joe has 46 hours to give the right answer. If he fails, his daughter Mia will be killed without hesitation. At the same time, the man has ordered his people to grab and hold Marie without thinking, and without considering Marie's safety at all. Joe rushes out to save her. Marie has been taken, and Chuni and his men are about to do something terrible to her. Worst part is, Joe tries to fight back, but Chuni's crew overwhelms him and takes him down. Now Chuni finally has the upper hand, and he's ready to repay Joe for that earlier torture in the most brutal way possible. Chuni pulls out a razor. He's basically seconds away from going full psycho. And then suddenly, Chuni gets a call from the mysterious man, ordering him to let Joe go. Chuni pushes back at first because he's been dying to cash in his revenge, but the mysterious man already left him a whole bag stuffed with money. That shuts Chuni up fast, and he backs off.
You a lucky motherfucker, you know that?
After that, Marie is left shaken and traumatized, and Joe can only apologize because, once again, he dragged her into his nightmare. Joe's apology routine is turning into a recurring series, and nobody subscribed. Cut to the mysterious guy, and surprise, he's living like a billionaire with staff and a spotless mansion. He's watching Marie change clothes on CCTV, and he's watching Joe too. Nothing says healthy adult like a surveillance hobby and a personal assistant. After that, Marie realizes this city isn't safe anymore and plans to leave. But before she can, Joe gets another call from the same voice. Joe notices something creepy. Every time the guy calls, the same music plays in the background. So Marie runs it through Shazam, and the song points to one place: Academy Evergreen, Joe's old school. Of course, it's a breadcrumb trail. Villains never just send a normal text. They search online and find only one solid lead: the former principal, Edwina Burke. So they drive out that night because her place is far. On the way, Marie admits she doesn't know why, but she actually cares about Joe. They arrive in the morning. Joe's still a wanted man, so Marie goes in alone, while Joe sneaks around to grab his old yearbook. Marie questions the principal about Joe's past, but she says Joe wasn't some problem kid. He was popular. Then she drops the real bomb. Evergreen Academy was bought by an unknown company and permanently shut down. And here's the weird part. The building and student records are still sitting there, untouched, perfectly stored. So Joe and Marie go to the school, and yep, it's closed. They decide to come back at night. Since the drive is brutal, they check into a small hotel. One room, two traumatized people, and a yearbook. That's not a plan, that's a disaster waiting to happen. At the hotel, they go through the yearbook. One name stands out, a male student named Adrian. Joe realizes he has no idea what happened to him. Joe concludes Adrian might be the key to all this chaos. After that, Marie decides to take a shower. While she's in there, Joe calls Chucky and asks if he remembers Adrian, their old classmate, but Chucky barely remembers the guy and has no clue what happened to him either. Then Marie comes out of the shower. Marie, wearing only a towel, offers to help Joe change the bandage on his back.
Yeah, please.
The mood instantly gets awkward as hell. Joe, who hasn't felt anything close to love in years, suddenly feels all these emotions hitting him at once, and then, out of nowhere, in the middle of it all, there's a hidden camera in the room, and the man is watching them. His face looks weirdly satisfied, like this is exactly what he wanted to see, and nobody knows why. Back to Chucky, who's digging deeper into their old classmate, Adrian. He finds an article saying Adrian is a billionaire who built a hospital in memory of his younger sister's death, which basically screams that her death is connected to all of this. Chucky contacts Adrian and tells him Joe had nothing to do with his sister. And Adrian immediately shows up at Chucky's place and...
Chucky! You called her a whore!
The billionaire builds a hospital headline always sounds inspiring until you realize it's usually just Grief wearing a tuxedo. The scene shifts to Joe and Marie as they head back to Academy Evergreen to dig up more information about Adrian. As they search, Joe starts remembering the past. Back then, he was in the same class as Amanda, Adrian's younger sister, and Joe, being Joe, used to bully Amanda in front of everyone.
Fresh way. This is sexy.
Then one day when Joe was drunk, he caught Amanda in the bushes, hooking up with an older man. That is the kind of image that moves in rent-free forever, whether you asked for it or not. Now Joe can finally answer who Adrian is and why he was imprisoned. It might be revenge for what happened to Amanda, meaning Joe can answer the question and claim the gifts promised earlier. Joe tries calling Chucky, but the number is dead. At the same time, Marie finds a package sent by Adrian. She opens it, and inside is a piece of Chucky's tongue. In other words, Adrian has killed Chucky. A tongue in a box is not a message. It's a felony with packaging. Joe is enraged. He swears he's going to kill Adrian for this. Marie, now deeply attached to Joe, tries to stop him. She warns him it's insanely dangerous and could destroy any chance of ever seeing Mia again. But Joe refuses to back down. He tells Marie not to report this to anyone. He's going all the way, and he promises he'll come back for her.
Don't call anyone. Don't talk to anyone.
I don't want you to go.
Joe's plan is basically revenge first, consequences never, bold choice. Long story short, Joe finally reaches Adrian and immediately demands to know where Mia is. Adrian's men try to block him first.
Where's Mia?
But Joe's been forged by 20 years of survival, and he takes them down fast. Then Adrian repeats the same two questions. Who is he? And why did he lock Joe up for 20 years? Joe answers without blinking. The man in front of him is Adrian Doyle Price. Joe adds that Adrian blames him for what happened to Amanda and for the collapse of his entire family, even though Joe insists it was never his intention to destroy anyone. And then the real truth comes out. The older man Joe caught in the bushes with Amanda was Adrian's father. Joe didn't keep it quiet. He turned it into school gossip and kept humiliating Amanda until everybody knew. The rumor spread like wildfire. Adrian's father was wealthy and obsessed with reputation, the type of man who would rather burn everything than look weak for 5 seconds. In the end, he confronted his daughter and did this.
Father.
Out of shame, he wiped out the whole family, including himself. Adrian survived only because the shot meant to kill him hit his shoulder instead, leaving him as the only one left. Rich families love the word legacy until it turns into a police report. Adrian, satisfied that Joe answered correctly, hands over the promised gift, the $20 million diamonds. But Joe doesn't care about the money. The only thing he wants is Mia, where she is, right now. A moment later, Adrian brings Joe into a hidden room he built to look like a private TV studio. Inside, he shows a huge screen, the same screen where Mia has been appearing in the clips Joe's been seeing all this time. A private TV studio is what happens when someone has unlimited money and zero inner peace. Suddenly, Joe hears violin music, supposedly Mia playing. Joe is overwhelmed because after 20 years, he thinks he's finally about to see his daughter. But then,
Ashley, you can go.
like that, the floor drops out again. Adrian reveals the girl Joe has been seeing on the screen this whole time was never the real Mia. She was a child actress Adrian paid to play Mia starting from around age 10. The whole point was to build hope inside Joe, then crush it on command. Joe snaps. Adrian didn't just do revenge, he produced it. Then Adrian reveals something even worse. He admits he didn't just fake Mia on TV, he also faked Mia in real life. He created a new identity and shaped her into a gentle, loyal person who would stay close to Joe. The woman Joe has been traveling with this whole time.
Change her name. It took a while.
Marie is Mia, his daughter. Adrian arranged everything, and Marie had no idea who she really was. Joe completely shatters. That twist is the kind that makes your brain go quiet for a second. Adrian tries to call Marie to tell her the truth directly, but Joe begs him, genuinely, not to do it. He doesn't want Marie dragged deeper into this nightmare. He wants her to live peacefully, without being haunted by the past. Adrian, feeling like his revenge is complete, keeps his last promise. He ends his own life right there in front of Joe, closing the sick loop he's been feeding for years. Revenge isn't closure, it's just damage with a ribbon on it. After that, Joe is crushed by everything he's learned, and he decides not to see Marie again. He doesn't feel worthy of showing up as her father. Instead, Joe writes Marie a long letter, explaining everything and apologizing. He also sends the birthday gift he never got to give her 20 years ago. In the letter, Joe asks Marie to forget him and start a new life without carrying his darkness. He gives her part of the diamonds so she can build a better future. And with the rest, Joe pays Chuny to lock him up again because he wants to return to the place where it all began and where, for him, it should end. The saddest part is Joe still thinks the locked room is where he belongs. That's what prolonged cruelty does to a person. Do not treat people like background characters just because you can. Life keeps receipts, and sometimes those receipts grow up rich, organized, and weirdly obsessed with surveillance. If you enjoyed this recap, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the algorithm has the memory of a goldfish.